The Pope, I will say, and I'm very happy to see this, has come out against all this. And it's important that the Pope does it because, first of all, some of these groypers, including, by the way, Nick Fuentes, are Catholic, and they think that Catholicism is a perfect remedy for what they see as the errors of Protestant dispensational theology, a kind of attempt to lay out the unfolding of the last days and so on. Well, the Pope is not into any of that. The Pope is not a Protestant. The Pope is not into dispensational theology. And yet here is the Pope affirming, by the way, a papal encyclical from 60 years ago, but it's being re-inaugurated, re-celebrated now. The encyclical is called Nostra Aetate. I want to just read a few sentences from it because they're so critical. A spiritual bond ties the people of the new covenant, Christians, to Abraham's stock. Thus, the Church of Christ acknowledges that according to God's saving design, the beginnings of her faith and her election are found already among the patriarchs, Moses, and the prophets. Notice how he's anchoring the New Testament in the Old. And he's saying that this is not just some accident of history, one just happened to follow the other. He's saying this is part of God's, quote, saving design. God is the architect of this continuum. And finally, one more sentence. In this way, the church, mindful of the patrimony she shares with the Jews and moved not by political reasons, but by the gospel's spiritual love, decries hatred, persecutions, displays of anti-Semitism directed against Jews at any time and by anyone. Basically, what the Pope is saying is that the notion that we are tied to the Jews and we have in the elsewhere it says in the encyclical, a love of the Jews. This is not dispensational theology. This is Christianity itself. And so what you have here is the mainstream denominations, the Catholic, the Protestant, coming together and affirming that the New Testament and the Old are part of one single Bible. In fact, the New Testament is the smallest part of that Bible. The Old Testament takes up like 80% of it. And then the four Gospels, the book of Acts, and the other books, the New Testament is a much slimmer version added on to this larger corpus. And by the way, not just larger in size, but extending over a much longer period of time. The Old Testament goes from essentially about 4,000 years ago to 2,000 years ago. And then the New Testament basically goes from 4 BC, which is around when Jesus was born, to about 40 or 50 AD. So a few years after his death, the Acts of the Apostles. The New Testament covers a little more than half a century. That's it. So, very happy to see the Pope at this critical time weighing in on this. When I first came to America around 1980, I had $500 in my pocket. That's it. Now, if I'd been really frugal and not spent a penny of that money, what do you think it would be worth now? What could it actually buy now compared to what it could buy in 1980? Well, the answer, less than $130. Now, why is that? Because the U.S. government, through the Fed, is constantly printing money and devaluing your money. When the government prints money, there's more money chasing the same amount of goods and services. So guess what? Money goes down in value. Money buys less. The Fed has been at it since 1913. That's why a dollar today can buy just what a few cents could buy in 1913. And the government continues to print oceans of money. It really never stops. Now, an ounce of gold reached a high of $850 in 1980. It's worth now around $3,900 an ounce. So historically over time, we see gold has gone up and up in value. Dollars have gone down and down. And what about in the last 12 months? Gold is up over 40%. I believe now is the time to find out how you can diversify your savings with gold and silver. And this is why I've partnered with Goldco. They offer the best customer service for precious metals ownership. They are also the only gold dealer that offers a first-time gold buyer rebate of up to 10% in bonus silver on qualified purchases. There's no better offer out there, so take advantage. To learn more about how to safeguard your savings from the dollar's decline, go to dineshgold.com. Very simple, easy to remember, dineshgold.com.